My name is Ray Goodship, and I graduated from Queen's Theological College in 2003 and ordained in Sudbury, Ontario that same year from Manitou Conference. Our three sons laid hands on me at my ordination. Bob and Jason and Alex, they were three teenage boys who had been a big part of that journey. They had sacrificed much, and I think they had grown a great deal in their faith as well. And so it was just so touching and moving for me and important that they be the ones to lay hands on me. So I served in Bentley Blackfalds Pastoral Charge. That was my settlement charge for 7 years. And they were amazing people. I learned so much there. I spent a couple of years at Sunnybrook United Church in Red Deer and alongside Linda Irvin. And that was, I got to do all the fun stuff, men's ministry and all that kind of stuff. And she got stuck doing all the tough work. So it was a great experience there and learned a lot. And then I've been here at St. Andrew's United Church in Cochrane for 10 years. And this has really been the place where I feel like ministry became what I had always dreamed it could be or had expected it to be. And so I'm so grateful to these folks for sharing their ministry with me these past 10 years. So in what ways have I experienced United Church being a place for all? And that's a great question, because I've always felt a little bit outside the church in some ways, and yet I've always felt welcomed here as well. So grew up in Northern Ontario, very blue-collar upbringing context, raised Catholic. And so I spent most of my time outside of school, either in hockey rinks and dressing rooms or on the job site. My dad, my uncle, and my grandfather, all three of them were bricklayers, and I became a bricklayer as well in my early 20s and did that for 20 years. And so, that was my context. It was a pretty coarse context in some ways. The air was always blue with cursing and filled with all the isms that we've learned to extinguish or at least put aside in our lives. And so that's my context and what I grew up with. And so around 1988, when our first son was about a year old, we went to a United Church, Emmanuel United Church in North Bay, to have him done, to have him baptized. And it was right in the middle of the issue, sexual orientation for ordination as a barrier. And so, and they were knee deep in that conflict. And yet, people on either side of the issue were still sitting in the pews with each other. Some people left, of course, but most people stayed, and most people hashed it out together. And it really kind of reminded me of a family arguing around the dinner table, and it could get quite heated, but it's still family, it's still home, and it's still where you belong, and you just stick it out and you hash it out, and that's what they did. And so oddly enough, that attracted us, and we engaged in that church. And by the mid-90s, one of those key leaders who were opposed to sexual felt that sexual orientation was a barrier to ordination. He told me by that point that he had been wrong, and that he was trying to reconcile with those that he had hurt. And I don't think there's anything more we can ask of our faith than that. To journey together as we grow and learn and mature. Bruce Coburn, in one of his songs, calls us fellow stumblers along the way, and I'm a stumbler, and I have these wonderful folks to stumble along with, and so we want to do better, and we want to understand, but we probably don't, and maybe never will. We want to make space for others to be with us, amongst us, but we're kind of awkward about it, and we don't know if we're doing it right, or if we're saying the right things, and probably we're not, but still we do our best, and we grow, and we learn, and we stumble along, and there's times when we really are the body of Christ, but we always want to be, and to me that's what makes the United Church in particular so important, is that it has not only room for everyone who's different from us, but it also has a place for me in my ignorance, and in my uncertainty, and in my awkwardness, and that's a blessing.